So there's actually a lot of reasons why those with autism might be more vulnerable to trauma. And I'm sure you can guess a bunch of them. And I'll just go through a few of them, and we can always come back to this if we feel like we need to. Sociocognitive features of autism. This might include things like trouble with mental flexibility, differences in processing and perception of experiences, reduced goal directedness, or trouble with utilizing coping skills that effectively help work through situations as opposed to calm the nerves in that very moment. Processing differences in autism may lead to differing perceptions, and those things can impact things like confusion and powerlessness, difficulty with understanding social subtext of a situation, or missing the context of an event can impact what they believe to be traumatic or what they feel is traumatic. This has also been shown to contribute to things like confusion, powerlessness, utilization of coping skills. And then we add in things like sensory differences. How we make sense of a situation is entirely based on how we experience that event, and therefore how we cope with it. There's also been some research to show that there's an overlap in the brain mechanisms between autism and PTSD. So things like how our amygdala and prefrontal cortex function, the HPA axis, the hippocampus, those are all really overlapping things that are happening in the brain, and makes sense then that we're seeing similar behaviors as a result. That's to say, just because somebody has a different perception of an event or what is traumatic doesn't make it inaccurate. So coming back to the point that trauma is subjective, we cannot come to somebody and say, those loud noises were just loud noises. That party that you went to and you didn't feel like you can leave, you should have just sat down and put your headphones on, or you should have just taken a walk outside. It is not up to us, and it is not up to that person either, what our brain interprets as traumatic and therefore has traumatic responses to. Additionally, autism can influence how trauma is processed, and likewise, trauma can impact how features of autism are displayed. And these are unique responses. We cannot expect somebody with a trauma response to be a certain way, just like we can't expect somebody with autism to behave in a certain way because they have autism. So again, we're seeing a lot of overlap in the communities of those with autism and those with trauma, in the same ways that both communities are coming to the table saying, society is putting expectations on you that it doesn't always need to. You know, somebody used the example earlier that I love about her daughter sitting under the table during dinner. And at some point, we have to say, okay, like then she sits under the table during dinner. And in other scenarios, that might have become a major problem because it's not what we expect based on the rules of our society. It's different, and that makes people uncomfortable. But both the autism and trauma communities are coming to the table saying, you can be uncomfortable, but that's what I need to do in this moment, and that's okay.